England, 1845. The British Empire stood at the height of its power. Its ships crossed oceans, its merchants connected continents, and its explorers pushed into the last unknown corners of the world. Yet one great challenge remained unsolved: the Northwest Passage, a legendary sea route through the Arctic that promised a shortcut between Europe and Asia. For centuries, explorers had searched for it. Some vanished, others returned defeated. Still, the dream remained alive. Then Britain decided to launch what many believed would be the ultimate expedition. Leading it was a respected naval officer named Sir John Franklin. Franklin was nearly 60 years old and already famous for his previous Arctic expeditions. He had survived extreme cold, starvation, and hardship before. If anyone could succeed, many believed it was him. Two ships were chosen for the mission: the HMS Erebus and the HMS Terror. Despite their intimidating names, these vessels were considered technological marvels for their time. Their hulls were reinforced with iron. They carried advanced supplies. They even had steam engines that could help maneuver through difficult conditions. To the public, the expedition looked unstoppable. A total of 129 officers and crew prepared for the voyage. Families gathered at the docks. Friends said their goodbyes. Few realized they were witnessing the last moments many of these men would spend in civilization. In May of 1845, the ships departed England. The mood was optimistic. Many expected Franklin's expedition to return as heroes. At first, everything seemed normal. The ships crossed the Atlantic and moved toward the Arctic. The last confirmed European sighting came in July 1845 when whaling ships observed Erebus and Terror waiting near Baffin Bay. Then, they disappeared. Months passed, then a year. No messages arrived, no ships returned, no word came from Franklin or his crew. Concerns slowly began to grow. At first, officials assumed the expedition was merely delayed by Arctic ice. After all, exploration in the far north was notoriously difficult. But as more time passed, worry turned into alarm. Something had gone wrong. Britain launched search missions. One expedition became several, then dozens. Over the following years, search parties combed the Arctic, looking for any trace of Franklin and his men. The search itself became one of the largest rescue efforts in exploration history. Ships sailed through dangerous waters. Crews braved freezing temperatures. Entire expeditions were dedicated to solving the mystery. Eventually, clues began to emerge. Some came from Inuit communities living in the region. They described encounters with starving European sailors. Others reported abandoned camps and strange stories from the frozen wilderness. Investigators listened carefully. Piece by piece, a picture slowly formed. Then came one of the most important discoveries. In 1859, searchers found a small written note. The document revealed devastating news. Sir John Franklin had died. The ships had become trapped in ice, and the crew had abandoned them. The note suggested that the survivors had attempted to march south towards safety, but they faced an almost impossible challenge. Imagine standing in the Arctic wilderness. No roads, no rescue helicopters, no radio communication, only endless ice, snow, and freezing winds. The nearest help was hundreds of miles away. The survivors carried supplies, but supplies eventually run out. Food becomes scarce. Energy fades. The cold never stops. Modern historians believe the men faced a combination of starvation, disease, exhaustion, and exposure. Each day would have been a battle for survival. Yet many questions remained unanswered. Why had such a well-equipped expedition failed so completely? How had conditions become so desperate? And what exactly happened during the crew's final months? As decades passed, the mystery only grew. Researchers continued discovering artifacts, buttons from uniforms, pieces of equipment, human remains. Each discovery provided clues but rarely complete answers. Then scientists began examining the evidence more closely. Some studies suggested the crew may have suffered from lead poisoning caused by poorly sealed food cans or the ship's water systems. Others argued starvation and harsh environmental conditions were the primary causes. The debate continues today. Another controversial piece of evidence emerged from recovered human remains. Marks on bones suggested that some survivors may have resorted to desperate measures during their final struggle to stay alive. The Arctic had pushed them beyond anything they could have imagined. Despite all the investigations, major questions remained unresolved. For more than 150 years, the Franklin expedition stood as one of history's greatest mysteries. Then in the 21st century, something remarkable happened. The search resumed with modern technology. Researchers used sonar, satellite data, underwater vehicles, and advanced mapping systems. For years, teams searched the Arctic seabed. Then in 2014, the breakthrough finally came. The wreck of the HMS Erebus was discovered beneath the icy waters. After nearly 170 years, one of the lost ships had been found. The discovery made headlines around the world. Yet the mystery was not over. 2 years later, another astonishing announcement followed. The HMS Terror had also been located, and what explorers found was incredible. The cold Arctic environment had preserved the ship remarkably well. Cabins remained intact. Objects sat where they had been left. It was as though time itself had frozen. For historians, it was like opening a doorway into the past. The discoveries provided valuable information about the expedition's final chapter, but they also reminded people just how ambitious the voyage had been. Franklin and his men had entered one of the harshest environments on Earth with confidence and hope. They believed technology, planning, and determination would overcome nature. Instead, nature proved stronger. Today, the story of the Franklin expedition continues to fascinate people around the world. Not because it was a success, but because it reveals something deeply human. The desire to explore, to discover, to push beyond the known horizon. Even when the risks are enormous, the men of the Erebus and Terror sailed into the Arctic, seeking a route that could change history. Instead, they became part of history themselves. A mystery buried in ice, a story of courage and tragedy, and one of the greatest exploration legends ever told. Nearly 2 centuries later, the frozen Arctic still guards some of their secrets, and the fate of the Franklin expedition remains one of history's most haunting tales.